Mr. Chamisa's Blue Movement is an attempt to establish a shadow government rather than the actual structures of a party. The Blue Movement campaign has reached every province and district, staging a skeleton-like connection. Without showing you on the screen what I mean by the skeleton, you may not understand it. Consider how the bones are connected and how they move. One leg moves forward, and the opposite hand moves forward. Then, you see the other leg moving. At every point in time, one leg should be on the ground. Here's what Mr. Chamisa said. To wash a palm, you need another palm, moving past another one, the same as the leg. One goes in front, then the other follows, and becomes in front. So, what is a shadow government? I will illustrate it with the UK's current situation. The Labour Party is the main opposition party and the other major political force in the UK. It traditionally supports workers' rights, social justice, and public ownership of certain key industries. Although the extent of its commitment to these principles varies depending on the dominant internal faction. However, the Labour Party is not a perfect example to illustrate the kind of skeleton-like shadow government Mr. Chamisa envisions, which is connected joint to joint. Consider this: movement happens because of the foot, so engaging citizens is always essential. The body provides the flesh, which encloses the bones, but the flesh carries the driving power, and the bones make the joints and sockets move in the direction of the energy supply. Before I move on, dry bones are not special like dry woods. You cannot make fire out of dry bones, but the wood burns depending on the quantity supplied. Dry bones cannot act, except in the case of Alicia, which caused someone to be resurrected. Poorly greased bones, without enough muscles, do much harm to the person and do not support life. This is why Zanu PF always harms the people, does not care about civil servants' salaries, and secretly prints money. It's just a matter of time. Mr. Chamisa is screening to make a cabinet outside the government that will mostly be there to check on sitting Zanu PF ministers, providing an alternate path for the people of Zimbabwe. Like all shadow governments, they will have to understand the practices of such a minister and, whenever necessary, apply the use of law and courts to defend the rights of the civilians against an aggressive ruler. This is a kind of prophecy calling intercessors and all change champions to supplications for the great nation of Zimbabwe, as in Daniel, who knew through the scriptures that the desolation of Jerusalem was to last 70 years. Understanding this prophecy and its fulfillment is central to the themes of hope and divine deliverance in the Hebrew Bible. Then, after Daniel understood the prophecy, he devoted himself to prayer for the restoration of Jerusalem and the return of the Jews to their home and city. This is the same prophecy I have for Zimbabwe. At the end of Mr. Mnangagwa's reign, we should see change coming and Mr. Chamisa's reign beginning. Thanks to Mr. Chamisa for perceiving the great time coming. The first test was to withdraw from Parliament so that not too many people were needed, but those who are not power-hungry and who can stand out as members of the movement's non-parliamentary expansion team. Unfortunately, Mr. Tendai Biti failed the test when he lost his seat to another champion of change. He failed to maintain an appetite for expansion and growth of the movement and instead relaxed. Mr. Chamisa has a follow-up to make. From the MK party led by former President Jacob Zuma, we heard disappointment in Jabulani Kumalo, a power-hungry individual. Jacob Zuma explains that the focus of the party is to get a two-thirds majority and motivate supporters to vote. Likewise, these power-hungry scavengers always come. Former President Jacob Zuma, being aware of them, delayed proceeding with the structures of the party. But don't be surprised, scavengers come quickly after you make a catch, waiting at a distance to spoil what you have created. Mr. Chamisa has some experience in government, having actually functioned in the united government under Mr. Mugabe and Mr. Tsvangirai. Using that experience, Mr. Chamisa is equipped to stage a shadow government, awaiting to take over from the Mnangagwa government. Stay tuned. We will be tracking the election in South Africa and mostly the events with the MK party and former President Jacob Zuma as the rising power. Thank you.